one bike qualifying on the front row of the grid. What followed in the Australian Grand Prix sprint was more troubles for the Borgo Panigale brand, as for the first time in sprint history, first time in 58 sprints, Ducati were without a bike on the podium. There'll be some contenders though on Ducatis for sure in Q1 and Q2. Look at the names though in qualifying: Marini, Bagnaia, Aldeguer, Agura, who's had a small tip-off at turn 1 this morning, Bezzecchi, Fernandez, Binder, Oliveira, Bastianini, Chantra, Salvadori, Pirro, and the Yamaha wildcard Augusto Fernandez, who's back once again for a play on the new M1 V4. This one feels like it's tough to call. As we just saw, has been brilliant in FP2. Gaia, Aldeguer, Fernandez, winners on this flyway tour in Japan, Indonesia and Australia. All three of them then coming up in this opening 15-minute session. So one of those three is going to be pretty key at the end of this Q1, because only two can go through. 6th time this year, Bagnaia's in the opening qualifying session. Lucky to miss out yesterday. So too were Marini. There was nothing in it really. Alex Rins was 10th with a 58.1. Marini also did a 58.1 yesterday at the end of practice, but he was out by just 0.06 of a second. Tough weekend so far, to say the least. From the highs of Phillip Island, where Marco Bezzecchi won the sprint. Ralph Fernandez was on the sprint podium as well. Those two also on the Grand Prix podium in Australia. We found them going a lot tougher so far this weekend in Malaysia. Rather surprisingly, Noah Aprilia made it directly through to Q2 yesterday. Top RSGP was Agura, way down in 14th place. Agura, Bezzecchi and Fernandez all locked together on the timesheets, 14th, 15th and 16th respectively. So what can Marco Bezzecchi do? Has to get through this session, you feel. First Q1 appearance since the Balaton Park, a circuit appearance in Hungary. He has won the last 2 sprints, has Bez. That has won 3 of the last 4 sprints. That's been a big help to getting up into P3 now in the World Championship. Yeah, a message that we all echo. Get well soon, Mark. Come back loading 2. Yeah, we wish the best for a long winter rehab for Marc Marquez. Unfortunately ruled out for the remainder of the 2025 campaign. That shoulder injury he suffered in Mandalika a couple of weeks ago has ended Marc's 2025 season. Who's going to see their Q2 hopes here in Malaysia though ended in about 15-20 minutes time.
You see their Q2 hopes ended, and potentially who's going to see their hopes of winning the Malaysian Grand Prix ended in this next 15 minutes. It feels like there are more potential Malaysian Grand Prix winners than there are places in Q2 out of this session. The evidence at free practice 2, which we saw a few moments ago, would suggest that Luca Marini, Amin Aldeguer, Kurt Bagnaia and potentially Marco Bezzecchi too on an Aprilia, which admittedly does not suit this Sepang International Circuit all that much, have all got the possibility to fight for at least the podium this weekend, but only 2 of them are going to start inside the top 12, maybe not even 2 of them.
It was a weird and wonderful qualifying in Phillip Island last weekend. As I mentioned, no Ducati on the front row for the first time in 5 years. We had 2 Yamahas on the front row in Phillip Island for the first time in 4.5 years. Really, in many respects, was turned upside down, wasn't it? It's been so dominant here in the last couple of years. 2023 and 2024, top 6 on both grids were all Ducatis. So they just won Ducati inside the top 6, and it was in P6. Fabio Di Gianantonio, who'll be in the upcoming Q2 session with his teammate, BR46 colleague Frankie Morbidelli, who did have a strong FP2 a short moment ago. Morbidelli, he was 2nd fastest behind Marini in what turned out to be an all-Italian top 3 in this morning's half-an-hour session.
Fernandez has come through qualifying 1 on 4 previous occasions this season, last in Brno when he came through to 6th on the grid from Q1. Pecco Bagnaia, as mentioned, he's been a fairly frequent visitor to Q1 so far this season, but on the previous occasions, he's only come through twice. Although on both of those occasions, he did translate back to a place on the front row of the grid, Putteram and Pole at Renault. Marco Bezzecchi, of course, the last 2 times we've seen him in qualifying 1, he's converted back to a place on the front row of the grid. It's become quite common in 2025 for the 2 that come through this qualifying 1 session to then qualify very well in qualifying 2 with the very recent track knowledge. So there is a massive carrot dangling above the heads of the 13 riders out on track in this Q1 session.
Aldeguer surely going to be a big candidate for one of those top 2 places. He was the only rider at the end of yesterday's practice session that did not nail a clean time attack. There was plenty more to come from the Spaniard, winner of our Indonesian Grand Prix, of course. Tough day at the office yesterday for the 88 of Miguel Oliveira, who's winding down his full-time MotoGP career, at least for the time being. A massive farewell party, I'm sure, coming up at his home round in Portimao in a couple of weeks' time as Oliveira looks to bow out in style. Inconsistent braking and a lack of grip on exit were 2 major issues that Oliveira was dealing with on his Yamaha. He did say, though, the fact that 3 other Yamahas would enable him to pour over data and try and find some answers to some big questions that he was posing yesterday. Aldeguer, now this is going to be the first flying lap of this session for the number 54 on board with Bagnaia, 3rd in the earlier FP2 session. Bagnaia, what can he do about getting a place in that 2nd qualifying session?
The bare minimum, surely we've got to be looking for laps in the 157s in this session. Best we saw yesterday was Pedro Acosta's 157.5. We're doing mid-58 on fairly warm rubber in pre-practice 2 earlier on today. So surely if you want any hope of being in this Q2 session in around about 25 minutes time, you're going to have to do at the very least a 57. Of course, with this track constantly changing, could we also see laps in the 56s before we're done?
Bagnaia is acting, squeezing it, making around big time underneath him on the braking zones, isn't it? Motegi aside, when he was on pole position and converted that pole into a sprint and Grand Prix victory, there's been a lot of occasions of late where Bagnaia has not been able to get himself out of Q1. Balaton Park, 15th on the grid. Catalunya, a disaster, 21st on the grid. He's only 8th on the grid in front of his own crowd in Rosano, 16th on the grid in that shocking Mandalika weekend. And then last time out, of course, he was 11th in the back end of Q2 last weekend in Australia. But there's been some pretty dismal qualifying performances of late for Bagnaia. Tegi, his only appearance in the top 6 in qualifying in the last 6.
Aldeguer looked slightly wide into turn 9, but it didn't appear to slow him down too much. He's up by a couple of tenths on Marini at the same point of the lap. They will both come through the 3rd sector. Bagnaia is quicker than the pair of them so far through this lap. He's about a tenth up on Aldeguer, but of course it was the final sector where Bagnaia messed up yesterday, which puts him in this Q1 session. So Aldeguer's opening gambit of this session is in the 157s, and 57.6 is just a tenth off what Acosta did yesterday.
First 57 we've seen from Aldeguer all weekend. It was coming. It was definitely coming, and he had a lot more potential. We knew that he had a lot more to offer after a poor conclusion to that practice session yesterday. Marini's got into 57s immediately as well. Bagnaia is now 2nd. Ralph Fernandez has gone into 3rd. There's Aldeguer and Bagnaia after the first flying laps that have got themselves into those 2 all-important top 2 spot. Right at the top as well, just 9 down for the seconds for Aldeguer and Bagnaia. Pretty decent chunk of time then, back to Ralph Fernandez in 3rd. He's going to need a couple of tenths at least to get himself inside that top 2. Marini 4th, Bezzecchi 5th after that opening exchange.
In that very early days, that would be Bezzecchi's worst qualifying since Aragon, where he had an absolute stinker, didn't he, in qualifying 1 with all sorts of issues. Aldeguer continuing to push on. Aldeguer, as mentioned, has been through Q1 on a few occasions, of course, most recently a week ago in Australia, where he managed to navigate his way through. This is a weekend where Aldeguer feels he's got a big opportunity brewing if he can clear this hurdle.
Just the 1 front row start this year for Aldeguer. That was in that brilliant Mandalika weekend for the rookie. 2nd place, which he then converted into a 2nd behind Bezzecchi in the sprint, and then of course he ran right in the Mandalika Grand Prix on Sunday. He missed his Grand Prix, of course, last year, didn't he? Aldeguer, after breaking his wrist making a rather controversial opening lap with Tony Arbolino in Moto2 in Buriram, but he's certainly making up for lost time, isn't he? Well, to be fair, he was on the GP24 Ducati for 6 days here in Sepang during pre-season testing, so not lacking knowledge on that Brazilian Ducati. There's a bit of chatter, a bit of vibration on the front end of Luca Marini's factory Honda. Needs entirely though on the exit. One thing Luca over the line out the get-go, he's put down to a 157.6 flat Marini, despite the clear move on the front end of that. And Michelin soft front tire Marini with a 157.536 has put himself up into P1. He led P2 earlier on this morning, and he's back in P1 in Q1.
So Bagnaia bumps back down to third now. He didn't improve. He rolled off on his second lap. He'll be coming up pit lane at the end of this lap. So of course, we've not got an awful lot of time to play with around such a long circuit. 5.5 kilometres, a nigh on 2-minute lap. So we'll have to go up pit lane at the end of this particular lap to have chance. James Pryor to go for the second run. So Ralph Landis and Bezzecchi, the two leading Aprilias in this Aprilia heavy Q1 session at the moment, 4th and 5th. Bindus ahead of Bastianini. Those two particular KTMs have been unable to find a 157 to this point.
Backhouse boss Davide Brivio now a race-winning team manager, MotoGP, with 3 different manufacturers. Yamaha, Suzuki and Aprilia. You can see him, he was nail-biting, drawing the fingernails there, desperately hoping that Ralph Fernandez can get himself into this top 2. Marini's qualified inside the top 10 the last 6 Grand Prix. Being a frequent visitor in Q2 of late. Marini, at the moment, that's where he's heading. All on the likes of Bagnaia, Fernandez then, and Bezzecchi, 3rd, 4th and 5th respectively, as it stands as we towards the halfway stage of this Q1 session. Bagnaia out by over a 10. It's a good 10th and a half at least. Once again, I think he's just saying there, as that rear just breaks grip on braking on corner entry. And when it comes back into line, that's the issue that Bagnaia has. Throwing so much weight over the front, it breaks his understeer, which means he just cannot get the bike in. So he wants it sacrifices then his big corner speed. Knock-on effect, if you're slow on entry, you're slow mid-corner, and then of course you're slow on exit as well. There's a lot of work to do late on here for Bagnaia.
A vicious cycle, which at the moment he's been unable to break free on the outside of Bezzecchi. At the moment, this is perfect for Alex Marquez and his hopes of securing second in the World Championship this afternoon. He needs to outscore Bezzecchi by 3 points later on today and not lose 5 points to Pecco Bagnaia. And at the moment, those two riders that Alex Marquez is up against, both of them are getting knocked out in Q1.
Luca Marini then, fastest time of the weekend so far, not by much, a 157.536, just a whisker inside of Acosta's 57.559 yesterday. So in this last 6.5 minutes of this session, somebody is going to have to set the best time of the weekend so far to knock Marini off his perch. Marini will know. That's 57.536, while impressive, while super fast, unlikely to be good enough at this stage to get him into Q2, where he could be joining Johan Zarco and Joan Mir. That Honda has looked really, really strong around this Sepang circuit. We know Aleix Espargaro has spent a lot of his 2025 circulating around this Sepang circuit, so they have got a lot of data. They are armed with a lot of knowledge. And we've still got to get out there and do the lap time as we pick up then Bagnaia. Top end of the circuit. Through 10 and 11 he goes. The double right-handers, then now you do really start to build up some speed before you fling it left. Down the hill through turn 12, through 13 and 14. Crucial against some drive out of turn 14. We saw Bagnaia have the big speed ball, didn't we? In the practice yesterday. Here comes Marini then. Finally heading out for his second time attack. Leading the way, I want 57.536 at the time to chase.
Just got Fernandez is just sticking out there. He's not coming to the pit, so essentially they're just using this as another public pet section on board that V4-powered Yamaha. But it's 63 who's our focus now with 5 minutes of this session remaining. So Pecco Bagnaia, who did get his timing a little wrong yesterday in practice, missed the checkered flag by about a second or two to get one extra lap in. He's going to have 3 attempts here. So too is Bezzecchi. He's using some Yamaha V4 slipstream to get himself down to turn 1 as quick as possible.
That could be smart. That could be really smart, that from Bez. Got right onto Fernandez's rear tyre, and he would have got dragged down that long start-finish straight here, Marco Bezzecchi. That would have surely claimed him a couple of tenths, maybe. He's up through the first sector now, rearing towards turn 4, tries to get that up fully settled. It's right here, as he picks up the gas out of 4, where he was struggling yesterday with a bit of mechanical grip. They couldn't get the power to the ground on that RSGP yesterday. Through that wonderful high-speed left-hander for turn 5. He'll now flick it right through 6, where we saw a real fierce battle, wasn't it, last year between Bagnaia and Martin in that start to the Malaysian Grand Prix of 2024. Bagnaia is on, so too is Bezzecchi. We felt that 57.536 from Marini wasn't going to be enough, and it looks like it won't be.
Traffic up the road, Marini gets out of the way. Hiro, of course, on the other factory Ducati, he's not going to get in Pecco Bagnaia's way, so he jumps over to the left-hand side of the road. There is very little to choose here between Bagnaia and Bezzecchi as he now approaches turn 12. The third sector will be completed as he rounds turns 13 and into 14. Bagnaia now 3 tenths up, and he won't be far away from the 56s here. And has he been able to pull a bit of time out of Bezzecchi? He has.
Not too far behind him on the road is Bezzecchi. You can see him in the top left-hand corner of your screens. Maurini's trying to tuck in behind Bagnaia here to help him get dragged down that start-finish straight. Into turn 15 we go then. Bagnaia, surely this is going to be a 57-1, 57-2 maybe. Surely it's taken it from P3 to P1 in this Q1 section in Malaysia. It is a 57-1, a 57.190 from Bagnaia then punches him up into P1. Bezzecchi did set his fastest time in the section, a 157.549, crucially though for Bez. Winner of our last 2 sprints, it was not enough to get into Q2, and he's backed out of it. Is that section over for Bez?
Well, the very most then, he's going to have one more lap. He'll get back to the finish line in time to start a final flying lap before the checkered flag comes out. So Aldeguer now back to 4th. Bezzecchi 13,000 short of bumping Marini out of the top 2. Aldeguer and Marini now going head-to-head on their recent laps, so there might only be one Q2 place available for them.
Bagnaia showing his class right now. That is a brilliant lap by Pecco. It's almost 3.5 tenths clear of any of his rivals out on circuit here in Sepang. Looking to get closer to the Italian are both Aldeguer, Marini. Good lap this, isn't it, by Aldeguer? This is going to be close. This will be very tight when he comes to the finish line to complete this 6th lap of his session. Marini also looking strong. He'll be worried that maybe Aldeguer might be taking this 2nd place away from him right now. A girl has done a personal best lap as well as he looks to move up from 9th on the track house affiliate. Ralph Fernandez still stuck in 5th place, the Phillip Island winner. Aldeguer then over the line he goes. It's the best time of the weekend so far. He absolutely creamed that final sector. A 157.148. Aldeguer then up into P1. Marini does get pushed out.
And Marini's had a poor 3rd sector, so he won't be responding to Aldeguer. Aldeguer really does throw that Ducati into the final corner. There's a variety of lines into turn 15. Many favour the wider entry to really fire it out on the exit, but Aldeguer absolutely launches that GP24 into turn 15. Nothing that Marini can do from here is surely going to get him into the top 2.
Oh, Aldeguer's crashed. Aldeguer has crashed. That's his number 1 Ducati GP24 on his side and in the gravel trap, and in the gravel trap as well. Well, that could be a disaster. I mean, Aldeguer looks like he's going to go through in the Q2 with a 57.148. He's only going to have one bike maybe at disposal in Q2.
The riders have been warned about this. They've been told in the last 3 minutes of qualifying sessions you can't restart your bikes. Of course, Aldeguer wants to do it because he wants to get that bike back for qualifying 2. He's brought the yellow flags out, which might just keep it in the top 2.
He had the fastest first sector, so too was Aldeguer. That's why he's just been pushing that front end too much. Marini then has had to back out of it, and that's it. It's game over as far as Marini's concerned. Aldeguer then trudges away from the scene of the crime at turn 4. A 57.148 from Aldeguer. It's going to get him through into Q2. Looks like along with Pecco Bagnaia as well. Well, they're now having to ready the 2nd bike. So good news in one aspect as far as Aldeguer's concerned. It looks like he's got a place within the 2nd qualifying section. but he's thrown that number 1 bike into the kitty litter at turn 4. Is there going to be any late drama, any late fire? Just keeping a close eye on Australian Grand Prix winner Ralph Fernandez. Nothing going for him. A PB lap time as he tucks in behind fellow Aprilia rider Marco Bezzecchi.
He's not improving either.
Bezzecchi's not going to improve either, so Bezzecchi's having a nightmare. He's going to make it 4 sprint wins in the last 5. He's going to probably have to come through from 14th place on the grid. Is Bezzecchi, which is his lowest qualifying since he was 20th in Aragon. Here is Ralph Fernandez then at the moment. He'll be 15th on the grid. I was going to reference Ayagura. We saw him together his PB lap time, and he made a big mistake in sector 3 as Bezzecchi goes wide, right out to the marbles. He's resigned to his fate here, isn't he, Bez? He knows that he's not going to go into Q2. 14th place on the grid for the winner of our last 2 sprints.
Yeah, wisely there, Bezzecchi not attacking Ralph Fernandez to the final ball, because Fernandez is on a personal best. Betz isn't. Might just put Fernandez ahead of Bezzecchi if he has a good final sector. Will follow the 25 to the line. Pecco Bagnaia is already having the debrief. He knows he's safe. Ralph Fernandez just a slotted behind Bezzecchi by a couple of tenths. So the Aprilias 14th, 15th, 17th and 21st on the grid. But clearly Sepang still the final frontier that they're yet to conquer.
Yeah, they were brilliant. They were untouchable in Phillip Island. It's been a miserable weekend so far for Aprilia as Fermin Aldeguer comes the unconventional route back to the paddock. Now he's past the security to get himself back in. Has then quickly got that number 1 Ducati back to the back of the garage. Are they going to get it fixed up and repaired in time for him to have 2 bikes? And he's crashed again.
Well,
He has crashed again. Yeah, you can see the frustration there from the mechanic. He almost cleaned out the team manager, Michele Massini there. Well, that's just
some further damage.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if
it's on the floor.
Yeah, topples over on the right hand side. Mamma mia! Yeah, you can see Michele Massini. He just about gets out of the way. Damage to the screen and the front fairing.
Just a little too keen and a little too impatient there, wasn't he, to get that bike into the back of the box. He got the bike back. Of course, Q2 didn't get underway for around 8 minutes. But Fermin Aldeguer, he was already down to 1 bike at the end of this qualifying once when he crashed. But he might have just done further damage there and just cemented the fact that that second bike, or the bike he started the session on, is not going to be used again. We'll see how much damage has been done to it.
That's the first for me. First time I've ever seen a rider crash at the back of the garage. Yeah, the yellow flags, and you could just see there as Luca Marini came up to turn 4. The LED panel on the left-hand side had pretty much just clear right at the last second. And Marini, though, had already rolled out of it. So a very, very eventful and dramatic ending. Q1 for Fermin Aldeguer. He set the fastest time of the weekend, a 57.148, crucially coming before he crashed at turn 4. And then in his sort of desperation to get that second, well, the number 1 Ducati back into the Gresini garage, he fell off it once again, right at the back door. Strange, very, very strange. He's going to have to try and get the old heart rate down right now, isn't he, is Aldeguer? Some big, big names out. Luca Marini, who was fastest this morning in FP2, this is out. Bezzecchi not coming out of it, or not in Q2 for the first time since the Aragon Grand Prix. Big ass for Bez. Make it 4 sprint wins in the last 5. Fernandez, Australian Grand Prix winner, on the sprint podium himself 7 days ago in Phillip Island. In fact, on the last 2 sprint podiums, of course, wasn't he? Raul, well, he's 15 on the grid. It's been a pretty taxing weekend so far for the Nawali factory. Bezzecchi will be their highest starter in 14th place. Seen that second bike get back in the garage yet, have we?
Might not look like it, but Fermin Aldeguer was your fastest rider in that qualifying 1 session before the first of, I guess, 2 crashes we have to term them as. 1 at turn 4 and 1 at the back of the paddock. Fermin Aldeguer on a 57.148, the fastest lap time of the weekend. Pecco Bagnaia matched it to take second, so Luca Marini will be gutted. Whether the yellow flags ultimately cost him top 2, we will never know, but he's third ahead of Marco Bezzecchi and Ralph Fernandez, so they'll be on the 5th row together tomorrow. Miguel Oliveira 6th ahead of Ayagura, Brad Binder and Air Bastianini. Those particular KTM showing no signs of making Q2. Sofiat Chantra 10th from Lorenzo Savadori, Michele Pirro, and Gusto Fernandez, who treated that session as more of a popular-sized test. He was 13th.
Well, when he was on 2 wheels, Fermin Aldeguer was impressively fast, wasn't he, in that opening 15-minute qualifying session. He's still in the hunt for what would be a maiden pole position in MotoGP. He did it the hard way, though, after crashing at turn 4 late on, then crashing, then he came back to the paddock. Aldeguer, though, and Bagnaia still in the battle for the Sepang pole position here in Malaysia. Welcome back to the Sepang International Circuit. Welcome back to Malaysia. And 20 in 2025, the sprawling motorsport complex of Sepang. Looking to 2,300 acres, neighbouring the nearby Kuala Lumpur International Airport, a 50-kilometre drive away from the vibrant capital of KL. It is truly Asia when we head to Malaysia. It is, of course, our 25th visit to the Sepang International Circuit. And next on the agenda, well, let's hope we get a repeat of the fireworks that we had in Q2 here last year when Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin going toe-to-toe in their epic battle for world title glory produced one of the most thrilling Q2s we have ever seen. More of the same, please, from the world's best riders as we learn to find out who's going to be on pole position in Grand Prix number 20. In contention, fastest on Friday, Pedro Acosta, despite 2 falls. Zarco, Miller, Mir and Quartararo, 4 Japanese bikes in the top 5 yesterday. Gianantonio leading the Ducati Challenge in 6th place, and of his teammate Frankie Morbidelli. Morbidelli was strong, second FP2 this morning. Ole Espargaro, Alex Marquez and Alex Rins. They were already safely through to Q2 yesterday. Through after what was a pretty dramatic ending to Q1 came the 2 Ducatis, the Fermin Aldeguer, the Mandalika winner, Pecco Bagnaia, the Japanese Grand Prix winner, which means, well, what a turnaround it's been in the space of a week for Aprilia. Having had 2 bikes on the sprint podium, 2 bikes on the Grand Prix podium last time out in Australia. They won both, of course, with Ralph Fernandez and Marco Bezzecchi. We do not have a single Aprilia in this Q2 session. Their best starter tomorrow will be Bezzecchi in a pretty disappointing 14th place. So last time out in Australia, it was for the first time in 99 Grand Prix. There was no Ducati on the front row. There was no Ducati in the top 3 yesterday. Acosta, Zarco and Miller. The top 3 for KTM, Honda and Yamaha. We have to find out, though, who will be our pole sitter in round 20.
It was meant for all qualifying 1 session, wasn't it, with Fermin Aldeguer and Pecco Bagnaia making it through. Aldeguer going down once at turn 4 and then again on his way back into the paddock at the end of the session. So does he have 1 bike available for qualifying 2 or does he have 2? Checks down to Grassini.
Yeah, it will be the second bike for Aldeguer in this one, and I think that's because of 2 issues. But first of which, you might have seen when it was on its side in the gravel trap, the engine was still running, the rear wheel was still spinning, and that could have done any kind of issue for the engine. And then secondly, that second pump at the back of the box going headfirst into one of the walls, that could have done anything to the electronics, to the ride height device. It's so many small items in the front of that bike that I think they don't want to take the risk. It will be the number 2 bike for Fermin Aldeguer. He is at least able to laugh about that small crash at the back of the box, having a joke just then with Frankie Carcetti coming across to apologise to the mechanic that he nearly took out. Big smile on his face. He looks like he's calmed down and he's ready to go for this big Q2 session.
Nearly took out the team boss, Michele Rossini, as well, didn't he? Thanks very much for that update, Jack. Well, as you saw on that graphic, 2023, and unforgettably here last year in 2024 in that absolutely incredible Q2 session against Jorge Martin. The last 2 pole positions here in Malaysia have gone the way of Bagnaia. Thankfully for the 63 fans, plenty of them who've massed here to Sepang. He is still in the hunt for the hat-trick. Q2 then coming up next as the heat and humidity rise here. We're about 50 kilometres away from the beautiful capital city of Kuala Lumpur. Pedro Acosta there then on the 37 bike. World Championship being strange, doesn't it? We're at round 20 and Acosta is still yet to find himself qualifying on the front row of the grid. A front row last time out in front of his home crowd that did feature a Fulham winner, Jack Miller, and he's got mass support here this weekend. So many Australians have made the trip to Malaysia for this 20th chapter of the season. So there is Alligator. He's coming up to turn 4, which saw him on the floor right at the end of a Q1 session, which he did top, crucially.
Fabian Aldeguer can't do now is crash again, having now been reduced to just one bike that's running for this Q2 section. He's walking a bit of a tightrope now in Q2. Of course, he's going to give it everything. He's going to give it plenty. Imagine this first run will be on slightly worn rubber, having, of course, used 2 tyres, being qualifying 1. But he's going to have to try and get a bank lap on the boards just in case something goes wrong later on in the session, because he will not have another bike to use if he does drop it again.
Want to get a bit of a toe here behind the 2 Brazilian Ducatis. Here's 29-year-old Spaniard Alex Rins, 8th in the Grand Prix here last year, one of only 5 top 10s in 36 appearances on board the factory Yamaha. It was Acosta then that led the way yesterday, though. One was 57.559. We've got a 57.1 from Aldeguer to lead Q1 earlier on. We're going to be needing back in the 56s, aren't we? To find pole position, you do believe, here today. What about Juan Mir? Well, he's already had a front row start this year. He did so second on the grid in that Japanese Grand Prix. Could he be a surprise name to slot himself on the front row? Front rows have been few and far between for HRC. They've only had 3 front rows all year, Honda. 2 for John Zarco in Termas and in Sachsenring, and just the 1 for Juan Mir in Motegi.
Well, in the absence of Marc Marquez, of course, outer injury, the king of qualifying out there in this Q2 session, without question, is Fabio Quartararo, who took his 5th pole of 2025 a week ago in Australia. Whatever issues he's grappling with on that factory Yamaha, although it didn't look too bad this morning in free practice, so we know the 2021 world champion turns it on when the 15 minutes of Q2 get underway.
Competition here as well in Malaysia in 2019 was Quartararo. So he's found himself to park firm at the end of Q2 previously. He's already got a TISO watch on his wrist here in Sepang. So Pecco Bagnaia having come through Q1. Only have probably 1 soft rear tyre now available out to suppose. That's why we're not seeing Bagnaia out early on in this Q2 section. Down to you, Jack.
That's exactly it, and you can understand that as well. A lot of the riders yesterday saying this soft rear tyre after 2 fast laps had a huge drop on it. So it could have been, there's no value, there's no benefit to going out and using a soft rear tyre, but wow, does that have pressure? It's going to be one and done for Bagnaia in this Q2 section.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. One and done. He's done it before. That's no doubt about Bagnaia. Initially through his rings, runs in hot, going through the bottom gear turn 9. That's going to cost Alex a whole chunk of time, as he was so desperate, wasn't he?
Acosta now.
Yeah, Acosta now gets through into 11.
Very nearly held up there by Alex Rins. I think he just about got away with it and got through in the nick of time. Let's see what the CD Ducati is doing. Alex Marquez closing in on Aldeguer. Is Aldeguer going to get out of the way? The answer appeared to be no. They were very close to each other there, weren't they? But Acosta is quicker than the pair of them. We remind you, Pedro Acosta has not started on the front row of the grid at all in 2025 yet.
And this is where Acosta nailed his 57.5 yesterday. He was absolutely phenomenal in the final sector. Look once again how hard he's attacking, pushing the front end of that KTM RC16. We're going to track the 3 Spaniards, or 4 Spaniards in the same picture over the line right now. The reference lap time is Acosta's 57.363. Straight out of the gate then, first flying lap of this Q2 session. Acosta sets his personal best time of the weekend so far. 4/10 of a second he is clear of Frankie Morbidelli. There's been just a 1 MotoGP pole position in Acosta's career. That came in Japan last year. Well set though to fight for his second.
I think Quartararo's rolled out of that. He has. Looked like he was sitting up coming out of turn 11, so we won't see anything from him on this lap. Zarco into 2nd place now, so the same top 2 we had yesterday afternoon. Acosta on a 57.3, Zarco on a 57.5. Or to remind you, Aldeguer and Bagnaia both did 50.
Bad job so far by Morbidelli. It's early doors in this session, but his last 2 qualifying performances have his 13th on the grid in Mandalika. 17th he was on the grid last weekend in Philippine. This is much more like the Rapid Morbidelli in Malaysia. Mir looking strong as he pivots that factory Honda highways, going through turn 7 and now 8. He's gained more time in that second sector, did Joan Mir. Now attacking hard on the brakes, all that Honda at the shape as the rear kicked up into the air. You could see just how much traction he was getting as well on the front end into turn 9. Mir is all in here, isn't he?
Let's see what Acosta's up to. He might be getting held up by the Precini Ducatis, or did they get out of his way? No, Acosta is still up through the third sector, of course, up against his own lap time. Mir now up behind Alex Rins, his former Suzuki teammate, as he makes his way through the third sector. It's nip and tuck between the two Spaniards.
Mir has never had a pole position in MotoGP. I think it was right here in 2017 on a Moto3 bike. The last time Mir was on pole. We're on board now with Acosta, who's going to get a little bit of slipstream now behind the two Grazinis as he charges towards the finish line. Acosta, over the line he goes, not able to improve. What about Mir then? Surely this is going to be putting Mir on the front row. What about that last sector? Is he going up into pole? No, not quite. Mir though finds a 1:57.455 already on the front row on our flyweight tour in Motegi. Up into second now, once again, two Hondas on the front row of the grid, and once again, there is no Ducati inside that top 3.
Best they're doing at the moment is the second row, 4th, 5th and 6th, but look at this from Fabio Quartararo. We might be about to see the first 156 of this Grand Prix weekend so far. Something went wrong for the 2021 World Champion on his first Q2 run, but he's got the second one right, all right.
Down he goes on the brakes now into turn 15. Quartararo, so often already in 2025, has delivered some stunning one-lap performances in qualifying. On the power on the factory Yamaha, out of that final corner, over the line he goes. Quartararo, the 1:57.195, does indeed wrestle P1 away. That's actually the fastest time of the day so far. Aldeguer was slightly faster in Q1. Ooh, Fabio Quartararo though, wow, he's produced another show-stopping performance, hasn't he? Fabio Quartararo, poles in Jerez, Le Mans, Silverstone, Assen, and most recently in the Phillip Island, on a course for another brilliant performance here. Q2 in Sepang.
More to come in this Q2 session. Both Aldeguer and Bagnaia beat that in Q1. Aldeguer did a 57.148, Bagnaia a 57.190. Pecco Bagnaia is now out on the circuit for his sole run of Q2.
Yeah, this is a pressure situation for Bagnaia. Too often down the years, he's been able to waft away any kind of pressure. This is a different beast though right now for Pecco as he tries to restore some of the lost confidence on that very unruly at times, unforgiving Ducati GP25. Now what's happened here to Pedro Acosta? He's coming back in the pits, I was going to say. Just hoping, I was thinking, oh no, surely there's not been some kind of tech issue which is going to rob Acosta the chance of pole position, but he just filtered back into pit lane. Oh, Acosta at the moment second, which would be his first front row start of the campaign. He's been strong in qualifying of late without really getting on that front row. 5th in Barcelona, 4th in Motegi, and 5th on the grid in both Mandalika and in Australia.
No, that KTM takes off like a greyhound, doesn't it? Down to the first corner. It's a long old run down to turn 1 here. That's about 600 metres from the start line up to the first corner. So if that KTM is on the front row, you won't see it for dust down to turn 1.
This is not a surprise to see Mir right in the heat of this battle, the pole position and that front row. Fourth fastest he was yesterday. You just see the body language and the mood, the tone in Mir's voice when he spoke to the media yesterday that it was a real fantastic Friday for the factory Honda start. Bagnaia then this now, his first flying lap on what is his only set of soft tyres in this session. Through that long radius right-hander of turn 1. Slow speed there down the hill. Don't really get an indication just how sharp the drop is, the decline is when you go down through turn 2. Power sliding turn 3 up the hill into 4. Aldeguer crash right at the end of Q1. It's been a brilliant first sector. This would be something special, wouldn't it, from Pecco Bagnaia, having just missed out on a place in Q2 yesterday. 12th and fastest he was. A bit of a complicated end to practice, but just look how hard he's pushing that factory Ducati. People might have questioned his the mental strength, his mental fortitude to sort of deal with the ongoing issues on the GP25, stroke GP24, stroke whatever you want to call that Ducati. It's underneath him right now, and this is brilliant by Bagnaia. He carries this on through. He's going to set him on the front row, maybe even in pole.
He dragged that Ducati to the front row of the grid, he kept kicking and screaming because that Ducati is certainly kicking out. The rear tyre stepping out sideways as he brakes, particularly into turn one. Already getting into turn four, though he was at least able to manage it and get the bike settled down by the time he arrived into the corner. He did a lot of his good work yesterday in the infield section of the lap. Third sector quicks up now. He's in touch with Fabio Quartararo, but expect that Ducati to pull time back now on the long drag down to the final corner.
That movement on the front tyre there as he was going through 14. There's just one front row in the last 6 Grand Prix for Bagnaia. That was the pole position in Motegi. Pick him up now, going through turn 15. It all looks clean, it all looks neat. On the gas now on the 63 bike, out of the final corner. Bagnaia, is he going off that front row of the grid? He's gone pole, brilliant. He has nailed that final sector. That is an awesome lap for the double MotoGP World Champion. A 57.001 on the only soft tyre he has at his disposal. This is a high-pressure situation, high stakes here for Bagnaia, and he's nailed it. He's almost 0.2 of a second clear now of Quartararo. We are looking at the Sepang pole hat-trick here for Pecco Bagnaia. He led Q2 in 2023 and in 2024, and he leads Q2 in 2025.
Exceptional from Pecco Bagnaia, but that final sector was all about Ducati versus Yamaha. Quartararo, I don't think, did do an awful lot wrong in the final sector, but that Ducati just punches off turn 14 and then gets Bagnaia down to 15 and out of the final corner to the finish line. It's pure quicker, it's pure power versus the Yamaha. Quartararo is the second slowest rider in this Q2 session through the speed traps, and in the end the Yamaha just not able to give Quartararo enough to beat Bagnaia in that final sector. This, you imagine, is Bagnaia's final shot in this Q2 session. Once he's got this second time lap out of the way, the best will be gone out of those soft tyres.
We might soon be having our 2 Q1 top 2 on the front row here, because Aldeguer, who led Q1, looking really strong on that Brazilian Ducati. Although the yellow flag's out in sector 1. It's Acosta, it's Pedro Acosta. Well, so many times in 2025 at key moments on a Grand Prix weekend, he has dropped the ball, he's fluffed his lines, he's done it again. Acosta on the floor at turn 1. That is his 3rd crash of the weekend. We might be seeing a hat-trick of poles here in Sepang for Bagnaia. It's a hat-trick of crashes for Acosta. Alex Marquez, Frankie Morbidelli, as you can see, on really strong laps. This is not over. We're surely going to see a 56 coming road race, surely. Bagnaia's 57.001 under big threats.
I think Acosta might have restarted that. We'll keep an eye out for him coming through the first sector. Aldeguer not really launching a pole challenge yet. He's going to have this and probably one more shot before the best is gone from his soft tyre. Acosta has come through the first sector, so he will get round for one more lap if his KTM isn't too badly damaged.
Put himself right under the cogs though, hasn't he? Acosta at the moment is on the front row. No damage done after that Q1 crash. Damage might be incoming though. It might be inflicted by Alex Marquez, Frankie Morbidelli, Joan Mir. Look how close Mir is to protecting pole position. Aldeguer rockets up from 11th to 5th with a 157.518. That's still not as quick as he managed to get himself out of Q1. Alex then over the line he goes. Then a pole lap from Alex. His second, he has pushed Acosta then off of that front row. Mir's lost time in that 3rd split, as you can see. Mir now at the back of the 2nd row in 6th.
Morbidelli goes 3rd, so it is now all of a sudden an all Ducati front row, as if things have reset back to normal once again in MotoGP. Acosta back to 5th. It could become 6th here with Mir across the line. Mir doesn't improve in terms of position. It is the best lap time of the session. Mir stays on the back of row 2.
Yeah, 6th place then for me. I'm just giving a close eye on Acosta's progress, because it's going to be now or never for Acosta. By the time he gets over the line, he's going to get over the line as his gravel dropping out the back of that KTM as he goes through turn 14.
Into turn 1, he tripped ever so slightly wide, front end walking away. That's the 2nd time we've seen Pedro Acosta have that crash already this weekend. He has just gone over the finish line as Acosta, as he knows, he's still coming through the final corner now, just making sure he's free of gravel. He has now gone across the line with 23 seconds remaining. This is now his last shot.
Turns 1, turns 2, turns 9. Caught out Pedro Acosta so far this weekend. Could that really cost his mistake of his weekend so far? He has been pushed back down off the front row from third to fifth. There is all the gravel getting dumped all over the circuit, dropping out the belly pan there. That's left a whole bunch of stones coming out of that turn 14. Alex Marquez then. It's going to be close. Mir also, well, we saw Mir lose about 2.5 tenths through that sector 3 on the previous lap. He's right on the money once again through the first half of this Sepang circuit. Let's just follow Mir on the graphic there. You can just see him about to come through the third sector. Quartararo trying to deliver something special late on once again. So too is Acosta. Acosta might be getting away with one here. Yeah, again, Mir just has no pace, no rhythm at all in that third sector. So Mir at best looks like he's going to be on that third row. Over the line goes Alex. He's going to stay in second place. He has taken the checkered flag. So too is our provisional pole starter, Bagnaia. Fabio Quartararo. Well, we might be seeing our first 156 of the weekend so far. Acosta trying to rescue a front row as well after his turn 1 crash.
Well, Costa's coming towards the end of the third sector now, but Quartararo is just throwing that Yamaha on the line in this qualifying session. This is where the Frenchman truly thrives. There is no one better in MotoGP right now on a single qualifying lap than Quartararo. Acosta has lost time in the third sector. He will not be improving on 5th place. It doesn't look as if he's going to be bumped off that second row, but it's Bagnaia looking to hang on to pole position here. Quartararo looking to take it away from it.
Oh, how hard was he pushing? That bike was out of shape going down the hill through turn 13. This is awesome. But once again, this is spectacular by Quartararo. He now powers behind his teammate Alex Rins up towards turn 15. He's delivered something super special so many times on Sprint Saturdays in Q2, hasn't he, already this year? Fabio Quartararo. Look how hard it's in front, moving on the entry. Ria sliding on the exit turn 15. Everybody goes. Oh, he misses out. You could just see there was the big moment on the front end into 15. The rear was spinning up underneath him coming out of that final corner. Quartararo then just off the front row in 4th place. Aldeguer then led at Q1. Mandalika and Phillip Island, the utter disasters of the last 2 Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia is back with a bang here once again in Sepang. Now that is much more like it, isn't it? Bagnaia, he does secure then his 3rd consecutive pole position here at the Sepang International Circuit. It is pole position number 27 of the 28-year-old's MotoGP career. He did it the hard way as well, having had to come out of that Q1 session. Bagnaia then will lead an all Ducati front row. Bagnaia on pole position, Alex Marquez second. Of course, those two in the hunt for second place in the World Champion. Looks like it's a formality in favour of Alex. Frankie Morbidelli on the front row of the grid for just the 2nd time in 2025. Frankie's first top 3 in qualifying since he was also 3rd on the grid at Motorland Aragon.
The 3rd pole of the season. Pecco Bagnaia, whose yo-yo season continues. It's his 2nd pole in the last 4, but of course the previous 2 he was outside the top 10. The best of Pecco today, his crew chief Christian Gavarini for Jack.
Yeah, what an up and down flyaway tour this has been. Christian pole position in Japan, and then we got lost, and now we're back on pole position again. Can you sum up the journey you've been on over the past 5 weeks?
We start to get used to this, but I would like to lose this kind of... Anyway, we never gave up to work in our way, and to improve a little bit. At least this morning was okay with tire, but of work that usually we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, never give up, keep fighting. That has been the message coming out of the Bagnaia camp. He's hit the buttons over the last weeks. I mean, just look at some of his recent qualifying performances. Quartararo, well, it was the 4th sector where he was getting killed on that factory Yamaha. We saw how hard he was pushing. He almost lost the front going into turn 50 on that final lap. The rear tyre was spinning up on him coming out of that final corner. This was the moment he dropped down the hill going through turn 13 on his last lap. Just had a little bit more horsepower. Look how unstable Yamaha was there on corner exit as well. Just like he did in 2023 and in 2024, Pecco Bagnaia, who reigned supreme in our Malaysian Grand Prix qualifying. 15th on the grid in Hungary, 21st on the grid in Catalonia, 16th on the grid in Mandalika, 11th on the grid in Australia. He's suffered so much. Taking aside has the Pecco Bagnaia, but we keep saying it, he's back. It's very hard to call whether he is well and truly back, isn't it? Bagnaia. Credit to Frankie Morbidelli as he completes an all Ducati front row, just a second front row start for the 30-year-old Italian this season. 14th time we'll see Frankie line up on the front row in MotoGP.
Turn one, won't it, with Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and Morbidelli going side by side. Costa will certainly attack them from the second row of the grid. It's fair to say that it could have been a lot worse for Acosta after his crash at turn one. Only fell back to 5th place, but only a front row challenge falling by the wayside once again for Acosta, who makes another Q2 slip-up.
Disappointment, I think, as far as HRC are concerned. Juan Mir, who was well and truly in that hunt for the front row at one stage, and he's going to head row 3 in 7th place. Johan Zarco, who was second fastest in time attack yesterday, well, he's only 9th on the grid. Fabio Gian Antonio will slot in between here and Zarco on that 3rd row. Alex Marquez then will be the 2025 runner-up who finished the sprint with a lead of 100 points or more over both Italians, Bezzecchi and Bagnaia.
Win achieves that.
Bezzecchi, of course, wasn't even in Q1. He's going to be starting way down the grid in 14th place. 3 crashes then already so far this weekend for Acosta. I feel like he might have got away with one there, though. That crash late on as he was building up for one last time attack at turn 1. Well, Acosta end the session with a best of 157.363. A couple of tenths inside of his best time, which put him in P1 yesterday. He finds himself on the second row with Quartararo and Aldeguer. Acknowledgement from both Alex and the Grazzini team of that brilliant job by Bagnaia as he comes over to speak to our Italian TV colleagues, where they'll be hearing for once from a very happy Pecco Bagnaia. There's not been too much to smile about of late for the Italian star. And Motegi aside, as we mentioned, it's been brutal. It has been really tough going for Bagnaia. Look at Motegi, the victory there, when Marc Marquez's teammate, scramble champion. 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix, he's not finished. Frankie Morbidelli on the front row of the grid for the first time since Aragon is the second time this year, and the Italians with Jack.
Frankie, second front row of the year, and I imagine after a difficult weekend in Australia last time out, there's huge relief to be on the front row and giving yourself a great chance here in Malaysia.
A great bounce back from the team. We worked very well, and here yesterday we improved our feeling throughout the day, and today we were able to have quite a good sensation on the bike, decent enough to make on the second front row of the year. I'm really happy. As I said, the team worked very well, and yeah, it's a great start.
Look this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, as he said, it is a great bounce back by not just him, but the VR46 Racing Camp. 13th in Mandalika, 17th he lined up in Phillip Island, and is much more like the fast Frankie we know and love. A 157.159, putting Morbidelli on the front row. The second time he started 3rd in Aragon, 4th on that occasion. The sprint, just over the line in the Grand Prix. As we get to hear then from a 2023 sprint winner here in Sepang. A sprint win here this afternoon will secure second in the World Championship for Alex Marquez, second on the grid with Jack.
Alex, we know how much you love this place. I think we all expect you to be on the front row, but it hasn't gone to plan so far this weekend. Yesterday, so how much the bounce back is that like?
Looks like everything is happening to us this weekend. I mean, we had some issues on the box. Later on, you know, I'm not feeling 100% with the bike like we did in the past, in the precision here. So still, I'm not feeling 100%. I'm not feeling ready, but you know, the rhythm, you know, was not bad on this morning session. So we'll try our best on the spin, and then we'll see where we are.
Good job, well done.
Thank you.
13th front row start secured of the campaign for Alex Marquez on board the Grazzini Ducati. A 157.017. Of course, with his other mark, absent from this Malaysian Grand Prix and sadly absent for the remainder of 2025. We'll see the graphic coming up post-session or post these interviews. Alex not out of the game in terms of the keys for a nice shiny BMW when we head to Valencia in the middle of November for our final Grand Prix of the campaign. See the numbers in terms of that one coming up shortly, but what a performance. What a brilliant Q2 display that was from Pecco Bagnaia. Out of Q1 and a 57.001. Continues this phenomenal recent qualifying record he has here at the Sepang International Circuit. We're hearing from Pecco very, very shortly. Get a smile on the face of Davide Tardozzi and a thumbs up to boot as well. I think Tardozzi himself has been running out of patience at times with Pecco, but it is the pole hat-trick. 2023, 2024, now 2025, pole in Sepang. The Pecco Bagnaia with Jack.
Yeah, that's now 3 straight pole positions here in Sepang as this roller coaster season highs the lows the blows. You just sum up the journey to get back on.
To explain, and like you said, it's a roller coaster. I don't want to be. I'm happy, but I don't want to be too calm. I know that this afternoon will be important to remaining calm and try to understand the situation. But this morning we did a good job. We tried different things and it helped a bit. Not just me, also the Ducatis, because yesterday we were more in trouble. So it's an improvement, and we just need to continue like this.
Great lap, well done.
That's it.
Yeah, a fantastic lap, thanks Jack. Congratulations once again to the factory Ducati team and to Pecco Bagnaia. Hard to believe we are coming into this 20th round of the campaign with Bagnaia notching just the solitary sprint victory. That did come though from his most recent pole position at the Mobility Resort Batagui, and that's an embrace between two senior figures at Ducati who've always stood by their rider. Ducati leaving no stone unturned to try and get Bagnaia back to his brilliant best. His wife Demetria, his sister Flo there on the right hand side of the picture as well. Some companions as Pecco Bagnaia is back on pole in Sepang.
Pole position number 27 in MotoGP for Pecco Bagnaia. Alex Marquez, who will look to secure second in the championship this afternoon, second. In fact, if he finishes there with Bagnaia the sprint winner, that would also be enough. Frankie Morbidelli third, second front row of the year. Fabio Quartararo did everything right until the final sector and had to settle for fourth. The Costa crashed fifth from Aldeguer, who came through Q1. Near Gian Antonio and Zarco on row 3 ahead of Rins, Miller and Paul Espargaro. Luca Marini will be gutted to have missed that in Q1. Some late yellows certainly didn't help. 13th then, and Marco Bezzecchi's the top of Aprilia, and Raul Fernandez also on row 5. Oliveira, Agura and Binder next up. Bastianini, Chantra and Salvadoria on the 7th row of the grid, and completing on grid of 23 for the sprint later on, Michele Pirro and Augusto Fernandez. BMW M Award then, 39 points is Marc Marquez's advantage now. If Alex Marquez can qualify in the top 2 in the last 2 Grand Prix, he will take away the keys to that brand new BMW from Marc. Fabio Quartararo will finish in all probability the year in third. Pecco Bagnaia up into 4th place now after his 3rd pole of the year.
Well, you can't keep a good rider down for too long, can you, as Pecco Bagnaia silences some of his critics here in the Grand Prix in Malaysia. Only half the job done, of course. He'll be wanting to build on that pole position. Last time he was on pole, he completed the win double, didn't he? Victorious in the Motegi Sprint and Grand Prix in Japan. Performance that then by the double MotoGP World Champion. 3 successive poles here in Malaysia for Pecco Bagnaia as he chases more sprint success in Sepang.
Welcome to the most exciting sport on earth.